Okay, so when you hear Garden of Eden, what immediately comes to mind? For most of us, I think it's, that perfect biblical paradise, right? But what if that iconic story is just, well, one part of a much bigger picture? What if its echoes spread across continents through really ancient myths and maybe even challenge how we think about time itself? Today, we're doing a deep dive into the Garden of Eden, this really multifaceted concept. And this isn't just going to be a simple retelling. Think of it more as a shortcut, a way to understand how this foundational place has been imagined, debated, and reinterpreted over thousands of years and across so many cultures. Our goal here is to uncover some surprising insights, diverse perspectives, and hopefully leave you feeling well informed without, getting totally lost in the weeds. And for this, we're leaning heavily on a broad set of sources, especially detailed excerpts from Wikipedia, which gives a great scholarly and religious overview. Ready to unpack this?
Absolutely. It's quite striking how central the Garden of Eden is, isn't it? Especially in the Abrahamic religions. It's really the biblical paradise. But, it's not always just called Eden.
Right.
Our sources mention other names too, like the Garden of God or sometimes terrestrial paradise.
And I think most people connect it just with Genesis chapters 2 and 3.
Yeah, almost exclusively.
But the imagery and even direct mentions, they actually pop up elsewhere in the Bible, like Ezekiel 28 and 31.
Exactly. And you see its themes echoing in places like Isaiah 51, Ezekiel 36, even Joel chapter 2.
So it's definitely more than just that one creation story.
That's a really crucial point. It shows Eden's influence runs deeper than a single narrative. It's a recurring foundational motif. And the name Eden itself, that opens up even more layers.
How so?
Well, it might come from the Akkadian word edinu.
Edinu, what does that mean?
It means something like plain or steppe, or maybe an Aramaic root word that suggests fruitful or well-watered.
Okay, so like a geographical description almost. Sort of. But then you also have this other interpretation, which is really fascinating.
Go on.
There's a Hebrew association with the word for pleasure or delight.
Ah, okay.
And that's why the Latin Vulgate translates it as paradisum voluptatis.
Paradise of pleasure. I think I've heard that phrase.
Yeah, it's in the Diaremes Bible. And right there you see this potential tension, don't you?
You mean, is it a physical place, a step, or is it more about a state of being, like pleasure?
Precisely. Is it geography or is it experience? And that question really shapes a lot of the discussion around it, which leads us right into the core biblical stories, starting with Genesis chapter 2, verse 4 through chapter 3.
Right, the main narrative most people know.
Yeah. YHWH Elohim creates Adam, the first man, places him in this garden planted eastward in Eden.
And it wasn't just any garden. There were specific trees that were, well, central to the whole thing.
Absolutely central. The text mentions every tree that is pleasant to the sight and good for food, but singles out two, the tree of life and the tree of the knowledge of good and evil, the forbidden one.
The forbidden one. Then, the story unfolds. Eve's creation from Adam's rib, the serpent's temptation. They eat the fruit, gain knowledge, but then they're expelled.
And the reason for the expulsion is key, right? To stop them from eating from the tree of life, too.
Exactly. To prevent them from living forever in that state. And then, of course, the cherubim and the flaming sword guarding the way back.
Such a powerful image. Choice, consequence, separation.
It really is. And Genesis even gives us this geography in chapter 2, verses 10 to 14. It's fascinating, but also a bit puzzling.
You mean the rivers?
Yeah, the 4 rivers. It says a river flows from Eden and splits into 4 heads. Pishon, Gihon, Tigris, which is Hiddekel in Hebrew, and the Euphrates, or Perath.
And it even describes the lands they flow through. Pishon goes around Havilah, where there's gold.
Right. And Gihon compasseth the whole land of Cush.
Okay, Cush. Usually associated with Ethiopia, right? But that seems far from the Tigris and Euphrates.
It does. And here's where it gets really interesting. The first century historian, Josephus, he actually identified Pishon with the Ganges.
The Ganges. In India?
Yeah, and Gihon with the Nile.
Wow. Okay, that's stretching the map quite a bit.
It certainly is. Though it's worth noting, some sources suggest Cush might actually refer to Cassia, the land of the Kassites in Mesopotamia.
Ah, okay, that would fit much better geographically with the Tigris and Euphrates.
It would. But this ambiguity itself, makes you wonder, is Genesis trying to give us, precise coordinates? Or is it painting a more symbolic picture of a world center?
That seems like a key question. Is it literal geography or symbolic landscape?
Exactly. And that symbolic weight is clear when you look beyond Genesis too, like in Ezekiel chapter 28.
The prophecy against the king of Tyre.
That's the one. He's described in incredible terms the seal of perfection, covered in precious stones, placed by God in Eden, the garden of God on the holy mountain.
Hmm.
He's even called a guardian cherub.
But then, just like in Genesis,
There's a fall. The king sinned, it says, through wickedness and violence. He's driven out, cast down, consumed by fire. A horrible end.
so it's another echo of that pattern: perfection, sin, expulsion.
A very powerful echo. And, these descriptions, both in Genesis and Ezekiel, they've definitely fueled this long, ongoing search for a physical Garden of Eden.
People have actually tried to pinpoint it on a map.
Oh, absolutely.
Yeah.
Lots of theories. Many scholars have pointed to Mesopotamia. Some, like Juris Zarins, argued for the head of the Persian Gulf, where the Tigris and Euphrates meet the sea.
Okay, that makes sense with the rivers mentioned.
It does. Others suggest maybe a larger region within Mesopotamia, around ancient cities like Telassar, or even thinking Eden represented the entire Fertile Crescent.
But not just Mesopotamia, right? I seem to remember other ideas.
Definitely. Some theories look north, towards the Armenian highlands, or the Armenian National Plateau.
Armenia.
Yeah. And the British archaeologist David Roll, he suggested a spot in Iran, near Tabriz. Though it has to be said, that's not really a mainstream view in academia.
Still, it shows the geographic spread of these ideas.
It really does. And then there's the connection to Lebanon.
Lebanon, how does that fit in?
Well, the scholar Turgay Stordelin connects Ezekiel 28, that King of Tyre passage, to Phoenician mythology, arguing it places Eden symbolically in Lebanon.
Ah, linking it to the famous cedars and forests there.
Exactly. That symbolic connection between paradise, Eden, and the forests of Lebanon seen in prophetic writings. Plus, you have scholars like Edward Lipinski and Peter Kyle McCarter suggesting the oldest Sumerian parallel might relate to a mountain sanctuary in the Lebanon or anti-Lebanon ranges.
Fascinating. But the search didn't just stop in the Middle East or the ancient world, did it?
Not at all. And this is where it gets, well, kind of surprising for many people. It shows how deep this desire to locate paradise runs.
Like what?
For instance, some early leaders in the Latter-day Saint movement believed Eden was actually in Jackson County, Missouri.
Missouri.
Seriously. And that Adam on the Ammon in Davies County, Missouri, was where Adam and Eve lived after the expulsion.
Wow. Okay, that's unexpected. Any others?
Oh, yeah. The Panacea Society believed it was in Bedford, England. There was a preacher, L.V. Calloway, who claimed it was by the Apalachicola River in Florida.
Florida, England.
And even Christopher Columbus, when he reached South America in 1498, he apparently thought he might have found the earthly paradise.
Columbus, too. It's like people were seeing Eden everywhere.
It really underscores how cultures project this ideal onto landscapes, familiar or newly discovered. It's not just about finding a point on a map. It's maybe about grounding this universal longing for a perfect origin.
That makes sense. And this idea of a blissful garden, it's not unique to the Bible, is it?
Not at all. You find parallels in many mythologies. Take Sumerian myth. They had Dilmun.
Dilmun.
Yeah, described as this paradise for immortals, a place where sickness and death just didn't exist.
Yeah.
Very Eden-like.
Any others?
Well, the Garden of the Hesperides in Greek mythology has some similarities too, this guarded, special garden.
Okay, so the concept resonates across cultures.
Deeply. And some scholars have even proposed a direct link, a possible origin for the biblical story in Canaanite myths.
From Canaan? How?
This comes from scholars like Corpel and de Moor, who tried to reconstruct narratives from Ugaritic clay tablets from ancient Ugarit.
Okay.
Their reconstruction suggests a story where the creator god, El, and his wife Asherah live in this amazing garden or vineyard on Mount Ararat.
Mount Ararat. Interesting.
Yeah, and in their version, another god, Horon, tries to usurp El. He ends up transforming the tree of life into a tree of death, spreads poison, and then, acting as a serpent, bites Adam, causing the loss of immortality.
Whoa. That sounds remarkably parallel in some ways.
It does. And this is really important. We need to include the counterpoint.
Okay.
Scholar John Day, for instance, argues pretty strongly that these specific reconstructions are highly speculative, maybe even dubious. So it's a fascinating theory, but definitely debated.
Right. Important to show both sides of that academic discussion.
Absolutely. Balance is key.
Now, you mentioned the word paradise earlier. Its history is interesting, too.
Oh, extremely. The word itself has traveled. Paradise came into English from French, which got it from Latin paradisus, which borrowed it from Greek paradisus.
Okay, Greek. Where did they get it?
From an old Iranian word, paradaia.
Paradaya. What did that mean originally?
It literally meant a walled enclosure. like a walled garden or park.
A walled garden,
Yeah,
like the Persian royal gardens.
exactly like those. By around the 6th or 5th century BCE, this Iranian word had spread. It got borrowed into Akkadian as Pardesu, then into Greek, Aramaic, Pardesa, and Hebrew Pardes.
So everyone started using this word for a fancy garden.
Pretty much.
Yeah.
But what's really compelling is how the meaning sort of shifted over time.
Shifted how?
While it started as walled enclosure, later on, in Iranian usage itself, it broadened out to just mean a plantation or cultivated area, not necessarily walled anymore.
Huh. So the walls weren't always part of the meaning later on.
Right. And this whole journey of just one word, paradise, it really shows how ideas and concepts of place can travel across languages and cultures, picking up new layers of meaning along the way.
That's really cool. So when we look at the Hebrew Bible, the Tanakh, does the word Pardes mean the Garden of Eden there?
Actually, no, not originally. When Pardes appears like in Song of Solomon, Ecclesiastes, Nehemiah, it just means a regular orchard or park.
Just a normal part, not the garden.
Correct. It's only later in Jewish apocalyptic literature and in the Talmud that the word paradise really gets strongly linked with the Garden of Eden and also with its heavenly counterpart, its prototype in heaven.
So that connection wasn't there from the very beginning in the text.
It seems to have developed, but this raises questions about dating, when did this happen?
Yeah.
Well, we have scholars like Mario Livrani who argue the Eden story was modeled on those Persian royal gardens, suggesting it was written down during the Persian period.
Okay, so a later date.
But then someone like John Day uses linguistic evidence to argue for an earlier pre-Persian composition. And Lauren Steger even sees connections to Solomon's temple.
So disagreement among scholars on the timing and influence.
Definitely. It shows it's still an active area of academic discussion.
And the Greek translation of the Hebrew Bible, the Septuagint, how did that handle it?
The Septuagint is key here. It used that Greek word paradisos to translate both the Hebrew pardes, orchard, and the Hebrew gan, garden, specifically the Garden of Eden.
Ah, so that really cemented the link between Paradisos and Eden in the Greek-speaking world.
It absolutely did. And then stepping into the New Testament, the concept of paradise evolves again. It starts to signify the place where the blessed go after death.
The realm of the blessed. Okay. What about Islam? Does Eden figure there?
In Islam, the Quran speaks of Jannat Natni,
Which means
gardens of Eden, or gardens of perpetual residence. It's the destination for the righteous. The Quran also often refers to the garden, Al-Jannah, as Adam's first home. Though, interestingly, his spouse isn't named as Eve in the Quran itself.
Huh. And how is the expulsion, the fall, viewed?
That's actually a really insightful difference. Many major Islamic interpretations from scholars like Ibn Kathir or Al-Razi don't see Adam and his spouse's departure from the garden primarily as a punishment for disobedience or, a failure of free will.
Not a punishment. Then what?
It's often understood more as an act of God's divine wisdom, Igma, part of a larger plan.
A plan for what?
To allow God's full range of attributes like love, forgiveness, mercy, to unfold on earth. And also for humans to truly appreciate paradise by first experiencing the trials and suffering of this world.
That's a very different perspective on the meaning of the expulsion.
It is quite different, yeah. And within Islam, there's also discussion about where this garden actually was.
Like the location debate again?
Exactly. There are generally four main interpretations. It was the ultimate paradise itself, or maybe a separate special garden created for Adam, or was actually located on Earth, or, finally, that it's best not to get too concerned with the specific location.
A range of views.
Yes. And you have scholars like Tio Shanavis who argue for an earthly location, partly based on a hadith, a saying attributed to the Prophet Muhammad, which states that no human eye has ever seen paradise. Since Adam was human, his garden couldn't have been the ultimate paradise.
Interesting logic there. Now, going back to Jewish thought, especially later traditions.
Ah, yes. Jewish eschatology, the Talmud, Kabbalah. Here, we find this really fascinating idea of two gardens Eden.
Two Edens.
Two types, yes. A lower Gan Eden, that's the terrestrial one, abundant, the one Adam lived in, and then a higher Gan Eden, that's celestial, heavenly, reserved for the righteous souls after death, a place no mortal eye has ever seen.
The higher one?
Yeah.
Is that the ultimate paradise?
Essentially, yes. It's sometimes called the Garden of Righteousness, believed to have been created right at the beginning of creation, and it's destined to reappear at the end of time. It's where the righteous dead are said to walk with God.
Wow. Are there descriptions of these?
Oh, absolutely. Louis Ginzberg's collection, Legends of the Jews, is full of incredibly vivid details compiled from various sources.
Like what? Give us an example.
Okay, so for the lower Gan Eden, it says the tree of knowledge acted like a hedge around the tree of life. And the tree of life was so immense, its trunk would take 500 years to walk around.
500 years, that's fast.
Incredible scale. It also says all the world's waters, Tigris, Nile, Euphrates, even the Ganges again flow from beneath the tree of life. And before the fall, angels served Adam and Eve cooked meat, and all the animals understood human language and were peaceful.
A true paradise. What about the higher Eden?
The legends describe the soul's journey there. It apparently passes through the lower Gan Eden, entering via the cave of Machpelah, which Adam himself guards.
Adam guards the entrance.
According to this legend, yes. Then the soul goes to a gate, guarded by a cherub with that flaming sword, and then ascends to the higher Eden via a pillar of fire and smoke.
These are incredibly rich, imaginative pictures.
They really are. It shows how Eden evolved into this complex, multi-layered spiritual landscape in Jewish thought.
It's far beyond just the Genesis story.
Miles beyond.
Now, what about Christian views? Any unique takes there?
One particularly interesting concept, especially prominent in Eastern Orthodox theology, is the idea of an atemporal fall.
Atemporal, meaning outside of time.
Exactly. This view, explored by theologians like David Bentley Hart, John Baer, Sergei Bulgakov, and even hinted at by early church fathers like Origen and Maximus the Confessor, it sees Eden not just as a place in the past, but as a reality outside our normal empirical history.
Okay, how does that work?
The fall, then, isn't just a historical event that happened once, but an ongoing, atemporal separation from that divine life of Eden, a separation that fundamentally affects all of subsequent human history and even shapes our current experience of time, making it feel sort of reduced or broken.
Wow, that's a very philosophical take on it. Eden as a state we're separated from, affecting time itself.
It's deeply philosophical, yes.
Right.
It reframes the whole narrative away from just a historical incident.
Any other interpretations? Maybe from less mainstream groups?
Well, briefly, you have Gnosticism. For example, a 2nd century Gnostic teacher named Justin had this cosmology with 3 original divinities: the good, then Elohim, the creator figure, but not the ultimate good, and Eden, who is seen as kind of Earth Mother figure.
And how did evil fit in?
In Justin's view, evil or disorder entered the picture when Elohim, out of ignorance or desire, tried to ascend towards the good, disrupting the original harmony. It's a very different framework.
Definitely different. Okay, so we've covered theology, mythology, location. What about culture? Art and literature. Eden must be huge there.
Immense. Its cultural footprint is just enormous. In art, you see depictions going way back, like Byzantine mosaics in Ravenna.
What are the common scenes?
The big ones are usually the creation of Eve, the temptation by the serpent, the moment of the fall itself, and the expulsion. You see these over and over.
Michelangelo's Sistine Chapel ceiling comes to mind immediately.
Absolutely iconic. And there's also that famous painting, The Garden of Eden with the Fall of Man, by Jan Bruegel the Elder and Peter Paul Rubens.
Oh, the one with all the animals.
That's it, packed with diverse animals all living peacefully together, representing that pre-fall harmony. It's a very popular image of Eden.
It's found in literature.
Well, medieval writers often used Eden as a locus amenus, basically, a perfect, beautiful, idyllic, natural setting, sometimes as a backdrop for themes of human love.
Like a perfect garden setting.
Exactly. Then you have Dante Alighieri in his Purgatorio, who places the earthly paradise, Eden, at the very top of the mountain of Purgatory.
Why?
For Dante, it represented the state of innocence humanity lost, sort of pledge of eternal life, but also a gateway towards the true celestial paradise. It has this dual nature.
Fascinating. And of course.
You can't talk about Eden in literature without mentioning John Milton's Paradise Lost.
Right. Probably the most famous exploration of the story.
Absolutely central. It delves so deeply into the characters, the motivations, the cosmic scope of it all. And much more recently, you have plays like Arthur Miller's Creation of the World and Other Business, which also engages with the Genesis narrative.
So from ancient texts to modern plays, it just keeps inspiring people.
Constantly. It shows how this one core concept has fueled just countless forms of human creativity, with each generation finding new ways to interpret its meaning and relevance for themselves.
Okay, well, that was quite the journey. We've really covered a lot of ground here. From the core biblical stories in Genesis and Ezekiel, the search for actual physical locations from Mesopotamia to Missouri,
Yeah, quite a range.
to the echoes in Sumerian, Greek, maybe even Canaanite myths. We looked at how the word paradise itself traveled and changed.
And the diverse theological takes across Judaism, Christianity, Islam, Gnosticism.
Those incredible details from Jewish legends about the two Edens, the Christian idea of an atemporal fall, the Islamic view of the expulsion as divine wisdom.
And its massive impact on art and literature through the centuries.
It really is astonishing, the breadth of it all. Hopefully, for you listening, this deep dive has served as that shortcut we promised, a way to grasp the surprising depth and the incredible cultural reach of the Garden of Eden without feeling overwhelmed.
It's clear it's far more than just a simple story.
Absolutely. And maybe here's a final thought to leave you with. Given how persistently this idea, this concept of a perfect, blissful garden, a paradise, shows up across so many different cultures, different times, different beliefs, what does that tell us?
What does this enduring, almost universal human yearning for a perfect beginning, or maybe a glorious end, suggest about, well, human nature itself, our deepest hopes, maybe our deepest anxieties?
Something to think about.